Hi, I'm back. I have some audio problems, so I was rectifying the audio issues. Let's begin with the coding challenge. Hi, I'm back. I have some audio problems, so I was rectifying the audio issues. Let's begin with the coding challenge. So in this problem, we need to solve this function in such a way like uh, we need to go with the code block. So let's begin the problem. Um, let's begin what's the requirement. Imagine a file called mathfunction.js that contains several functions related to mathematical operations. One of them is stored in a variable add that takes in two numbers and returns their sum. You want to use this function in several different JavaScript files in order to share it with these other files. You need to first export constant add xy and then return xy. The above common way to export a single function, but you can achieve the same way something like constant and then export add. When you export a variable or function, you can import it into another file use it without having to rewrite the code. You can export multiple things by repeating the first example for each thing you want export, or by placing them all in the export statement of the second example like this. Okay, let's begin here. So these two string related functions, you export both of them using the method choice. So in this method, we have like in the coding challenge, we have uppercase string and lowercase string. We need to export the both of that functions. So let's for exporting, we just say like export uppercase string comma lowercase string. When you're going to export these functions in other file, you can able to reuse it. So what shall we do, like constant uppercase string? Let's check this one. Yeah, it's perfect. So using this export, we can able to call these functions in any other file. There we can call the particular methods. Just a minute, I'll be back. Yeah. So now let's look at the next problem. In the previous one, we have exported the function uppercase and lowercase, and here I'm just assuming I'm assuming like we are going to import the file. Reuse JavaScript code using import. Import allows you to choose which part of a file or a module to load. In the previous lesson, the example is exported add from math.js. Here, how you can import into another file. So we want to import this file. So what we should do, like so let's say like the reference file is something like math.js. Here they gave it the reference file as string.js. So add it at the top. Let's say like import. Uh, we need to give like from dot. So this has been given here dot slash, and here add this these two methods. Yeah. Now just hit run. Yeah, that's it. So in the previous one we have exported that method, and here we are importing that method. So when you're planning to move to Angular or React, and these import export, you must be using very frequently. Use star to import everything from a file. Suppose you have a file and you wish to import all of its content into your current file. This can be done with import star as syntax. Here is an example where the contents of a file named math function.js and import into file in the same directory. Yeah, so, so here the usage of star is something like when you have a folder, and in that folder you have like around three to more than one file. We don't want to specifically mention each and every. Rather, you can say a star one, which recursively call all the files. The above import statement will create an object or math module, and this is just a variable name. You can name it. The object will contain all of the exports from the math.js, so you can access that function like whatever you add any other property. Here's an example how you can use add subtract function. Okay, so the code in the file requires the content of string, and that is in the same directory. Use the star as a syntax. Okay, so what we will do, like we need to have that file as string file, so we just want to say like import star, then as, and we need to give string function. That is what they have mentioned. Then from say like from dot slash string function.js. So we don't want to specifically mention uppercase and lowercase. Instead, we can use star and assign that star to that we have a name string function. With that string function, we can call the specific methods like string function or uppercase. Require is not. I'm sorry. Somewhere it is throwing wrong. What is this? Import star as string functions. Okay, I'm sorry. .js. Yeah, I missed that extension. Yeah, so now we'll go to the next one. Create an export fallback with export default. In the export lesson, you learned about the syntax referred to as a named export. This allowed you to make multiple functions and variable available for use in other files. There is another export syntax you need to know, known as export default. Usually, you will use this syntax if only one value is being exported from it. It is also used to create a fallback value for a module, file or a module. Below, in the export lesson, you have learned about the syntax name. This allowed you to make multiple functions, and there is another export syntax you need to know, like default. Okay, so this is something like we just want. So we want to export only one value from this function. So we always go with this default. So named function is like export default function add xyz return x plus y. An anonymous function is like export default function xy and return. Since export default is used to declare a fallback value or for a module file, you can only have one value to be a default export in each module. Additionally, you can't use export file with var, let, or constant. Okay. So we want to write an anonymous function for this one. So it should be something like export default, then say function. We don't want to write the name, say like xyz xy, and then return with x minus y. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, now like import a default function, sorry, default export. So earlier we made a default function. Now we need to import that function. In the last channel you learned about export default and uses. To import a default export, you need to use a different import syntax. In the following example, add is the default export of the math function. Here is how it is shown. So we just want to import that file. So what we'll do, like we'll say like first we'll go with import from, we'll say like where the file will be like dot slash math function.js, and then we need to say like subtract, since we are giving a name to here. So that's it. I think somewhere it is wrong. Import from, I think spelling mistake. I have a spelling mistake. Subtract. Yeah, right. Create a JavaScript promise. First of all, promise is something like when you're going to have a backend API interaction. So it is basically, it's something like a XHR request code. So the status will be like 0 1. If it is 0, if I'm wrong, please Google it in and get the right one. But as per my understanding, like whenever you have XSR request, it will return some values. Let's say if it is 1, it is a success call. If it is 0, it's not a success call. And there is one more value. I'm not sure it's a negative integer, but or a positive, but that shows like we are expecting a value from the backend service. So in like previous, like around like 3 4 years back, when you're typing something like what is promised, you must be seeing a blog which shows like a man standing in front on the mountain and he's looking for his sheep. Water all coming to his near to him, they'll call it like a success. And water all he doesn't find that sheep, he called it as a failure. And water all he thinks like it may come, he thinks like okay, it is coming to his side. So maybe you can search it in net. Let's resolve this problem. Sorry for that more explanation. Promise. A promise in JavaScript is exactly what it sounds like. You use it to make a promise to do something, usually asynchronously. When the task completes, you either fulfill your promise or fail to do so. Promise is a construction function. You need to use a new keyword to create one. It takes a function as its argument with two parameters, resolve and reject. These are the methods used to determine the outcome of the promise. The syntax look like constant my promise, new promise, resolve, reject. Create a new promise called make server request, pass in a function with resolve and reject. So it's something like constant, then you just make server, then you say like new promise, then you say like resolve, then reject. Yeah, that's it. I think it's the promise spelling is wrong. Yeah, then run the code. Yeah, it's done. Uh, just wait for one more, a couple of minutes. I'll be back. Okay, I just want to have some water. I'll be back. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry for the interruption. So now let's move on to the next problem. Complete a promise with resolve and reject. A promise has three states: pending, fulfilled, and rejected. The promise you created in the last challenge is forever stuck in the pending state because you did not add a way to complete the promise. The resolve and reject parameters given to the promise argument are used to do this. Resolve is used when you want your promise to succeed, and reject is used when you want it to fail. There are methods that take an argument as seen below. Constant my promise, new promise, resolve reject. If condition here promise was fulfilled, else promise rejected. The example above uses string for the arguments of these functions, but it can really be anything. Often it might be an object that you would use data from to put on your website or else. Okay, so we just want to write the response. Make the promise handle success if it's true. Call the resolve method to successfully complete the promise. Pass resolve string with the value we got the data. If a failure, use reject and instead pass data not result. So we just want to mention say like resolve. Here we want to say resolve and just pass the value we got the data, and if it is failure say reject and just type the value data not received. Yeah, just run the test cases. Yeah, it was success. Let's check like how many problems we have resolved. Free code camp, get started. So we have almost okay. So we are needing to complete this ES6 and then it's going to be regular regex. Promises. Handle a fulfilled promise with then. Promises are most useful when you have a process that takes an unknown amount of time in your code. When you make a server request, it takes some amount of time, and after it completes, you usually want to do something with the response from the server. This can be achieved by using the then method. The then method is executed immediately after your promise is fulfilled with result. So here, so promise has a one more handle called then. So after success, we can with the help of then, we can either assign the variable or we can call one more function. So let's look at the example like my promise that then the result do something with the result. Result comes with an argument given to the resolve method. Add then method to a promise. Use result as a parameter of its callback function and log the result. Okay, so here we just want to say like my promise. So it's just it's we got the promise, and with that result we just want to say like add the then method to a promise. Use result as a callback of its function callback. So here it will be like say like make server request dot then say result. Yeah, that's it. Use result as a callback, and so console.log result. Let's see is it right or wrong. Console log result to the console. I'm sorry, the spelling mistake. Yeah, it's done. Okay, so this is the next one. Handle a rejected promise with catch. Catch is a method used when a promise has been rejected. It is executed immediately after a promise reject. So here previously we just used then for the success one, and now we need to use for the exceptions. We need to go with the catch one. So this will be something like either you can say like I think you can say catch, and then you can go with its error, and then say I believe this will not work. Just let me check this one. So yeah, we have this one. Um, no, this one I'm just making something wrong. So we can go with something like this and say catch, and say like error. So error, error. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So we have completed uh, the ES6 concept, and now we are going for regular expressions. So let me close this live session, and I'll come back maybe after 5 minutes. I'll update my thumbnail and come back with the and we'll start doing the regular expressions.